Hey everyone, this is Yosef Edesta 52 Frames. Just wanted to quickly go over what I think is a very important aspect which we don't talk about enough, and that is the best export tools. What is the best file format to export to social media? We're going to focus on Facebook because that's where our project is currently housed. And I just want to show you some photos from last week's album. If I go to dimensions that here are 2048, you can see these will extend the entire length of my monitor. When we go to the lower dimensions here, you see here the photos are looking small, and this is how they appear on Facebook also. And even if it's a great photo, the moment that it doesn't quite take up the whole screen, it detracts and the viewer feels like they're not getting enough of it. This, for example, is 1000 on the long end, which is a little bit too short for the ideal export settings. Now, what is the ideal export settings? Allow me to demonstrate. 2048 WOD. I don't know what that means. 2048 wide, okay? Or I should say 2048 on the long side. 2048 pixels is the ideal number right now, as of this recording, for a Facebook export. Most monitors today will max out at 1920 wide. So 2048 will show magnificently for most monitors. And the way Facebook compression currently works, 2048 is a magical number. I'm going to walk you through exactly how I save my photos, and then I'm going to show you an alternate way as well if you were interested in that. This is the photo that I just submitted for this week's album, Complementary Colors. I went ahead and I flattened the image just to make it a quicker process. So the first thing I do, because right now the image is 5472 wide, which is the width of my camera, of the natural camera setting, straight out of camera. So what I do is I do Control-Alt-I or Command-Option-I to bring up the image size dialog, and I'll just change the width to 2048. Now, if this was a portrait and not a landscape, right, then I would change the height to 2048. That's why it's not really 2048 wide, it really should be 2048 on the long side. So for this example, 2048, because I have them linked, the height will automatically change to keep those dimensions the same. I'll leave this on automatic, though you can do bicubic sharper because we are reducing it. I like to give Photoshop the decision making here. And then what I do is I just go to Save As, I'll go to a JPEG, and I'll do a JPEG quality 8 and hit OK. That will give you a relatively small file size. In this case, it's over a megabyte, but usually it's in the 200 to 300K range. I think because there's a lot of color and contrast in this one that it needs a bit more data. And anything more than 8 is not really giving you anything. And I like to save for web use at a lower quality, because this way, technically, anyone can right-click on your photo right now and save it, let's be honest. So if somebody's going to print it out, they'll get at least a little bit of a lower quality than for something that I would export for print or for full resolution if somebody would purchase it. That's the way I save. I just wanted to quickly show you a different option to save for web, which is the Save for Web dialog. Now, in order to bring that up in Photoshop, you hit Control-Alt-Shift-S or Command-Option-Shift-S, basically all the keys that you can possibly think of, and S. And for here, you can make a preset of your own. I would go to JPEG. Because I don't use this, I haven't really tested it fully. JPEG very high at quality 80 seems to be the same as saving it as the number 8, the way I do. I do see a difference between the very high and the high. Definitely don't want to go to medium. You definitely don't want to go to low. But the difference between very high and maximum is minimal, if any. I don't see any difference. The difference between high and very high is slightly noticeable, but again, that's up to you. The other important thing I would do is convert to sRGB, which is the internet standard file format. And I would include all of your metadata if you are submitting to 52 frames so that we can use that EXIF data for critique afterwards. And down here, I would then resize to 2048. Again, keep this linked if you want to maintain the proportions and hit save. One last thing to point out, if you are in Adobe Bridge or Adobe Camera Raw, you can go to the Save Image dialog. You can also make a preset for yourself, which I've made, called For Web. This is a great dialog where you can select the folder of where you want to download. You can add some relevant text after the file name. This is really useful for client work as well. And then I go down here and go to quality 8. I will resize to 2048, keep resolution at 300, and I'll check the sharpen for screen. This yields some beautiful results with an adequately small file size. And again, 2048 is that magical number for social use, especially Facebook. All right, guys, thanks so much for listening. This is Yoav Videz for 52 Frames. If you aren't involved in our 52 Frames project, definitely check out 52frames.com, where we issue a photo challenge every week. Thanks, guys. See you soon.